Now, speaking about this production, the staging of it will be quite unique as well, and you'll actually be in a pool during the performance. Can you talk a little bit about that and the challenges that brings?
Yeah. I'd say the biggest challenge about doing this Orpheus and Eurydice in the swimming pool is the acoustics. It's an Olympic swimming pool, enclosed, but as you know from being in a swimming pool, I'm sure you have been, that the acoustics are very, very live and just very, for lack of a better terminology, swimmy. And so that we knew would be our biggest challenge. So I'm mic'd, and Todd, the clarinetist, is mic'd. The orchestra is mic'd as well, so that the sound is focused, and there are the speakers toward the audience, so they can hear everything more clearly. It's not that we needed amplification in there. I mean, there's plenty of amplification, but it just focuses the sound and grounds the sound for the audience. And I think it's working. I think it's working better this time. It's the second time around we've done it. As far as the water goes, it's really fun. You know, it's fun to be in a different venue. It's fun to be out of the concert hall and out of the opera house, and to try some different things using a much different space. The water is a beautiful, beautiful element for this piece in particular. You know, given the mythology, the river Styx, you know, and going into the underworld, we really use the water all night long, and it's so beautiful under the lighting. And we're actually not in the water; we're on a little boat that takes us out, and I get in and out of the boat at various times, and we have doubles. I'm Eurydice, but I'm also the narrator of the piece, and so I have a double, and she sort of plays out my part, and Orpheus also has a double. Even though he's playing Orpheus, he also has a double. So they're in the water and in and out of the water, and it's very interesting. It's ingenious, I think. Yeah, I heard someone talking last night as they were leaving the performance, because we were sort of all, because of the space, you know, you're sort of running into the audience members all the time before and after, you know. But these two ladies were talking, and the one said, "I really enjoyed it tonight. It was sort of like being in the middle of a dream." And it is. It's very dreamlike. I think because of the water, it's sort of undulating all night long, you know, and it's sort of a magical, mysterious kind of quality. It's wonderful.
So speaking a little bit, you were talking about mics, talking about technology on the opera stage. There's so much controversy around that. You know, to what extent should it be used? Is it taking away from the composer's intentions? What do you think about using it for classical works where the composer does not get a say?
Well, I think in traditional opera houses and concert halls that are built to be acoustically viable for opera, for concert works, I don't like using microphones. Amplification, if it's meant to be in an opera house and it's meant to be heard well, then you shouldn't need them. You know, I mean, that's part of the beauty of opera and concertizing. You know, is that it's not amplified. That's what sets us apart, I think, from popular music. And I think it should be preserved, and I think we should try really hard to avoid it at all cost, unless it's, you know, a contemporary composer and he's written things that are meant to be amplified. You know, this instrument to be amplified, or that voice in a certain place in the theater, or whatever. You know, there are times when composers have asked for that, and that's different. But I think amplifying things that weren't intended to be, I don't really love that, unless you're in a swimming pool, or unless you're outdoors, or, you know, in a venue that's not traditional.
And that brings up so many questions in terms of contemporary composers. At the Opera America conference today, they were talking about what is opera, you know, at what point do you draw that line? If there's too much mixing going on or technology, is it no longer opera?
Well, yeah. Good question. I'm sure will be bandied about for many years to come.
Absolutely. I wanted to ask, what advice would you give to a young singer who's just starting out and is aspiring to a career on the opera stage? What are some of the best things that you did for yourself?
Times are different now, I think, than they were when I first started out, but
But that was a couple of years ago.
It was a couple of years ago. You know, and the thing that's the same is that it's very competitive. It's a very competitive field, and there are lots, probably many more singers than jobs for the singers, I think. It seems to me that way. I see a lot of great young singers who are not working, and I think they should be. I don't know what's going on. Although we do know what's going on partly. Our economy is having a really rough time, and I don't think that'll stay that way. But right now it's condensed quite a bit. But I would say I was given very good advice, I think, early on, and that advice was really just concentrate on learning to sing well. And, you know, there are so many other things that you can run around trying to do, you know, trying to find the right dress, trying to, you know, learn how to act in a way that you think is going to be pleasing to the agents or to whomever is listening to you. But opera is really about great singing, and bottom line, you know, there's a lot of other things, of course, that go into it. But if you don't have that fundamental skill, and if you don't have that to wow the audience and the general directors and the agents, they're not going to see past that, you know. They're not going to see what a great actress you are or what a beautiful person you are necessarily if you don't have the voice first and foremost.
And certainly not your dress.
Right. They definitely don't care about dress.
And you did so many competitions when you were starting out your career, and you won quite a number of really prominent competitions. What do you think was the role of competitions in getting your career started?
I think it was useful. I think it was very useful. Not only did it provide me with a little bit of cash, which I needed to sort of, you know, stay afloat in those early years, but it gave me some exposure because, you know, really prominent people in the opera world judge those competitions. General directors of companies, agents who might be looking for new young talent for their rosters, directors, conductors, former singers who have a lot of influence often are listening to those competitions, and they remember the good singers, and they remember not only the ones who won, but the ones who didn't win, who were also very good. So for that reason, I think probably more than any other, they're good to do and helpful if you can make a good impression.
And what's next for you? Where are you going after you leave Long Beach?
After I leave Long Beach and the Salastina Society Festival concerts, I'm heading home. And I've been on the road now for, I don't know, it'll be about 3 months, I think. And I'm ready to go home and have a break. I'll have summer basically off. I've got a couple of little concerts this summer, but they're pretty low-key, easy, manageable things, doing music that I know. And while I'm home resting and recouping, I've got some music to learn for next year.
Of course.
Some new songs.
It never stops.
I know, it doesn't. It's fun, though. I really love that part of it. I'd die if I was doing the same role over and over and over and over. There are a couple that I do a lot, but I love doing new music. I love learning new things. It's really what keeps my brain excited. So it's fun for me.
It's so wonderful. Well, for my last question, I have a somewhat philosophical question. These days, there's so much going on, so many distractions in society, and the classical music world is really struggling to attract younger people to performances. What do you think the role of music is, and especially of classical music, in the current world that we live in today?
Yeah, we have a tough time competing with, you know, the pop music world, and I mean it's so big in the, you know, their industry is just huge. There's so many millions of dollars that are poured into things like American Idol and pop concert tours and things like that, and it's difficult. It's difficult to compete with that. But I have to say that I think classical music has a depth and it meets emotional needs that pop music just doesn't get to. And so I think it's really important to keep trying to fight for what we know is important to present to the public. I think things like this Long Beach Opera situation at the pool, I think that's great. I had some friends who came last night to the show, and they brought their 2 little kids, And they loved it. Of course they loved it. You know, they loved being in this swimming pool, you know, area, and place that was familiar to them, totally unintimidating. But seeing something really different and it's fascinating, you know, but hearing great music too at the same time, I think it really pulled them in. And I think, you know, these kinds of things we have to keep doing to try to attract younger audiences. And even in the traditional opera houses, we're, you know, trying to do things that are a little more cutting edge and more interesting than just traditional staging of an opera, you know.
Well, thank you so much for all that you do to continue that art form into tomorrow. And we're so excited to have spoken with you today and to seeing you in this wonderful production at Long Beach and also in the Salastina Society concerts.
Thank you so much, Julia. It's been my pleasure.
Thank you.
Yeah.